Anyways.
Hello guys, it's Amarah, musician among other things, and today my husband and I are sitting down mostly for our own wishes to hold on to the memories of how we met. We're going to tell our story, how we met, courted, got engaged in a very short span of time, and all the details of that. So yeah. I'll just start out because from my perspective, my family knew you through a ministry in our area, and I had been a part of that ministry, but at that time I was just not as active in it, so I had never met you, but I had heard about him, and I don't think he was automatically like on a list for my mom, but he was, it was like, that's a nice young guy, I wonder if he's single, that it was there. So I was told a few things about him, but I barely knew anything. I hadn't met him. And it was actually a really good thing because at the time I was still healing through my breakup. And so I needed that time to really break through with that. And so we were supposed to see each other in November of 2020. November of 2020. But the event that we were both going to go to got rescheduled. And it's actually really good that it did because I was not ready then to meet someone new. It was actually in early December that year that I had a breakthrough of healing and God restored me a lot. And I was just filled with joy. And so then it was January of 2021, actually January 31st, the last day of the month, where I finally met him at a fellowship, a small house fellowship at my ex's house. Did you have anything to add about that first part?
No, yeah, I guess for me, I'd met her mom and brother first at one event, and then later on met her dad at another event and spent several days with them. Not exclusive with them, but in the same group as them. And I knew they had two daughters, but didn't know much about them at all. It just had that fact had been brought up that they had daughters, and so it was like, oh, whatever. And actually was sort of interested in some of the other girls at the ministry event. There was interest, there was she's nice and she's kind of cute. And one of the funny things, I got one of the events I was at with both of your parents and got to know them actually both really, really well. You were supposed to be at. And I got invited day of and was like, oh crap, I got to go home and pack after school. And went home, packed, drove out there, and they had taken your name card and flipped it over and I wrote my name on it.
I forgot that.
And so I didn't know who.
So that was early January, right?
Yep.
They got rescheduled to there, and I didn't go, I think because I was working on an album at the time, and also I stayed home to watch animals or something.
Yes, I think that sounds right.
So I could have gone, but I don't know, it just wasn't, it wasn't time yet, maybe.
Yep, and so then the day we met, I was at the apartment helping kind of set stuff up, and there were several people there kind of getting their food ready and getting seats ready and stuff like that. And so I kind of became the doorman. And so people, it was locked, and so people would knock on the door and I would go and open it. And you guys were probably second or third group there. I remember opening the door and knew Shama and Hope and Liam, but then didn't know you.
And I was the one who opened the door.
Yeah, and she was right there. And I was like, oh, I don't know who this person is, who this lady is. And then the family came in. I was like, oh, okay, it's the Parks. And I always bring this up. She oh, hi, nice to meet you. And stuck her hand out for a handshake. And I have a fine handshake or whatever, but she was just and went for it.
I'm a massage therapist,
and
guys.
And the conscious thought went through holy cow, she's got a strong handshake. Jeez.
So that was your first impression, was my handshake?
Yes. It was well, she's tall, pretty, and then crushed my hand. And I was dang. I'm not like a limp fish or anything like that, but it was I was not prepared for that.
And I definitely didn't remember even thinking about it. I always try to give a strong handshake, nothing crazy, but because I don't know, I like people to know I'm strong and independent, Sure. So it's kind of just what I did. But I remember being at a point where I felt like I'd found healing with that ex. It had been many, many, many months since we'd been together, and I was because he had been hosting some fellowships, but I never really wanted to go. I just didn't feel right. But this time I was like, yeah, I'm going to go. I don't know why, but I feel like I'm healed. I can go there and participate in the event, and it won't be difficult for me.
Yeah.
Which was really amazing. So it just happened to be that day that you were there as well. Yep. Did you know you were going to that in advance, or was that kind of last minute too?
I think that was mostly last minute. It may have come up like a day or two before.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like weeks out or anything like that.
And he knew you through the ministry group too, right?
Yep. And then we were going to church, same church, and yeah. Yeah. And so at that point I had met your best friend. I knew her relatively well. Your parents knew them relatively well, and some of your cousins.
Yeah.
I knew them not as well, but still knew them.
So everyone had met him but me, basically.
Kind of, yeah. And the only one I had met was your sister.
And like later on, we find out that like a couple of them were kind of thinking, oh, the two of them should meet. Because like they knew me and they had met you, and they're like, could see that happening, like see the compatibility.
Yeah, we were like the last to know.
We were the last to know. So then after that, we didn't like have any connection after that. We didn't have each other's number at that point or anything.
Well, I would say like at the fellowship.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like I was sitting with your brother and he was showing me some stuff, and you came over, if I remember correctly, and we kind of sat and kind of interacted, us three, and then
I was bold and I sat by him.
And then we kind of sat, not like in a corner by ourselves, but sat in seats next to each other and just chatted for a bit of what do you do, and kind of got to, I don't know, not know each other's hearts necessarily. Well, maybe a little bit, but like she was a massage therapist, so I was like, oh, that's cool. So what got you into that? And you would just talked about how you wanted to heal and help people work with pain and kind of overcome discomfort and injury and stuff like that. And so it was, I don't know, I guess maybe it would say a good gauge to like see who you were, where your heart was.
Yeah, it was like more than just a job to get money. Yep. Like it was something bigger. And I remember really admiring how you talked about your work too, and just what you do. I just felt like you were super passionate about it. You were talkative, but you weren't, I don't know, I had heard you were very outgoing and talkative. And for me, like, people like that can also suck at listening sometimes. So I was kind of watching out for that, and you just listened so intently, and I felt so heard. And like that first conversation was an incredible like first impression per se. I was initially attracted to you as well, even though you are a little shorter than me. It's like I almost didn't register that at all. It wasn't really a thought in my mind. Yep.
And then we were going to play catchphrase, which if you know how to play catchphrase, there's a circle of people. You have this little game thing, and it tells you a phrase or an object, and you have to describe it to your teammates, and they have to guess what it is. But you go like every other person's on your team. And so before we started playing, like in my head, I was like, I'm going to sit by her during the game. But I didn't think it through that we were not going to be on the same team. And so we're going to be in opposite teams, actually. So even though I was sitting next to her, it kind of like backfired because it's like, oh, we're on opposite teams now.
I think we both we didn't move. That's the thing. We sat by each other. Yeah. And then they formed a circle around us, and we didn't move. Like I wanted to find too. I was being a little bit, forward about getting the opportunity to talk to him, because I feel like you can't just expect things to just happen. Like you have to make connections, and so I was out there trying to like talk to you, and and you were feeling the same way, I think.
Yeah. And so anyways, so as you were saying, that night ended or whatever, we didn't have each other's numbers, didn't communicate at all, and then your best friend had a worship night.
Yeah, at that time we were in a phase of hosting a lot of different little fellowships at different places. Even I was hosting some. And at this time, it was next going to be hosted at my best friend Maggie's house. And I remember mentioning, like, oh, you live right in this little town, exactly where I know Marshall lives. So I'm like, well, did you ask him if he wants to come? I mean, he could basically walk there. I tried to be nonchalant, but I really just wanted to get the chance to see him again, maybe. And she's like, yeah, I could. I just didn't know how you'd feel about that. Like, would that be uncomfortable or weird, or to have just this random guy? And I'm like, no, that'd be great. So she invited him last minute, and he came. And the only other people there besides me, her, and him were my mom and brother. And my mom at this point was like really trying to make things happen. Like she's like on board, because one time meeting him and us interacting, she's like, okay, this needs to be given a shot, right? So she's only there for like an hour or two, which it usually goes a few hours. And she dips out. She's like, well, we better go home. And she's making this huge deal out of it. And like, and I'm just giving her this look like, Mom.
Yeah.
So that was kind of funny. It ended up leaving the three of us there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we talked about how you like owls
Mm-hmm.
at that event. But anyway, we both like owls. It's we have a bunch of owls in our house now.
Lots
so
of
it's
owl
kind of cute.
decor. Yeah.
Anyway, so at that point we ended up, I think we just were clicking a lot, the three of us. And I had no signs that you favored anyone. It was literally just a very friendly gathering. And I think Maggie suggested, she's like, well, you guys hungry? Do you want to go out to eat at a local restaurant here? And
great restaurant.
And I think you were full. Like, you were so full. But
I
you
had
said
eaten
yes.
a massive lunch before. Like, huge.
Like, he ordered something and he took it with him. Like, he barely ate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we ended up going over there.
And sat for 2 hours, maybe? I feel like we were there for a while.
It was a couple plus hours. We stayed until, it was like 9 p.m. or something.
It was freezing out.
It was freezing out.
Like
oh my gosh. It was so cold.
Or something.
And you just like, you walked so nonchalantly when you're outside.
We didn't have that far to walk.
And us girls are just running like,
ah! Yeah. Well, so we're leaving through the restaurant. And I had, at this point, like I'd known Maggie longer, but had, I would say, started crushing on Am. But wasn't trying to like be super obvious or awkward about it.
And he succeeded. I had no idea.
Yeah. And so as we're leaving, we remember this is the part we remember very differently. Because in my mind, it is explicitly, she's like, oh, it would be cool to like, if we saw each other again, not like, you know, like went on a date, but just like, that'd be, if you're around. And so in my mind, she asked for my number. And I gave her my phone and she put her number into my phone. That's how in my mind it works. But in your mind, I was the one who initiated.
I remember, okay, so I know we were both back and forth about it. Because I was like, well, I'm going to be having a fellowship at my house sometime, so if you're interested in coming, like, let me know. And then I just remember us kind of pausing, like, well, how would I let him know if he didn't have my number? So I just remember you being like, well, here's my phone, like, I don't know. It's hard, we can't decide who initiated it, but either way, the number was exchanged.
Yes.
And it got into his phone.
Correct.
And he sent me a text later that night, just kind of like, I'll actually remember this was kind of significant. I got a text from you saying, I really enjoyed spending time with you tonight. You didn't just say you guys, you said you. And that was like my first tiny hint that maybe he was interested a little bit.
Yeah, I always tell people I was intrigued at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know her very well. Obviously, I've only seen her twice and spent, I don't know, a total of not even maybe 5 hours with you or something like that. And so.
But I remember learning so much about you on that second day. And I learned some on that first day too, where I actually started a list in my phone, because when you like someone or you're interested in getting to know someone, you don't want to forget things that they tell you. And I felt like I was getting so much information. I started writing down bullet points about who you are and like your story and everything in my phone after that day, that second day. And so at that point we had each other's number. And I think we did start slowly to text at first, like every few days. And then I think it was becoming more of a daily thing before we saw each other again. I think it was 2 weeks later.
And it was, and I mean, there was like light flirting, but always was just like, how was your day going? And
yeah. I mean, you don't just text random guys every day. So like you could tell like there was maybe some interest. But it wasn't anything crazy, nothing very telling. So then at that point, I was giddy. This was over Valentine's Day. Like, I remember Valentine's Day going to my grandma's house, and we were texting about, like, escape rooms or something, and how you like them. And he gave me this fun little quiz of, like, if I would like them or not. He's like, well, are you this? Are you that? Well, then you would like it. I don't know. He was just being very fun. And I just remember being in the like stealing away to the bathroom, because in our family it's not like normal or good to be on your phone when you're with the family. So I was like stealing away to the bathroom and like giggling and texting him during that day. So
and then the next kind of like biggest event that happened, at least in my mind, I never have plans on the weekends. Like, I was like married to work, and then on the weekends I would just sit and veg. maybe go work out but may go for a drive. But that was it. I never went out with friends. I didn't really, anyways. And one weekend I had some plans with some other teachers. We were going to go do an escape room together over like Valentine's Day weekend. And so they were all with their spouses, and I was like the ninth wheel or whatever. Like there was 4 different couples. And
yeah,
it was
there
me.
were all couples in the new. Yeah.
Because I love escape rooms and like enjoy all those people, their spouses, everything. It was fun. And so we're out and we're eating at a really, really good restaurant afterwards. We're sitting kind of waiting to get our food or get our orders taken. And I get this text from your mom. Yeah, I think it was your mom. And she's like, oh, we're having a birthday party tonight. If you're interested, it's just going to be family. And so I was
my
like,
mom, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
I
a couple
will say
things.
she did get my permission before she asked. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be fine. And then I'm like, wait, that's so weird.
Yeah.
We're not even dating, and he's like, it's only family.
Yeah. And so in my head, I hear the only family piece, and I'm like, oh, that's okay. Maybe like there's a chance, like maybe there's a chance, like the family likes me or whatever. Okay, that's cool, whatever. And I part of me so wanted to dip and like just abandon my plans. And some of the teachers, because I was kind of telling them like, well, there's this girl I'm kind of getting interested in, and I had been teaching for 3 years at that point, and they were like, go leave, what are you doing? And I was like, no, because I committed to being here or whatever for the night. And so like, okay, but then whatever, you do you. And so I was like, no, I'll just stay. And it just is what it is. And so I texted back like, thank you so much. And like, but part of me was like, the one weekend I've made plans like literally in 9 months.
Yeah.
Is like this weekend. So I was like, dang it.
And that's maybe for the best in a way, because I think that would have been a unique setting too. It would have been fine, but it may be not ideal for the early point of our relationship.
Yeah.
So yeah, and mom had asked me or something, and I was just like, yeah, that's fine. You can invite him. I was trying to play it cool and stuff, but it just makes sense that is, you don't invite strangers to your family gatherings or like some with strangers.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny. Anyway, so then the next time we ended up actually seeing each other, we kind of been texting daily at this point.
Yeah.
Was at a small fellowship at my house, and I was really excited for him to see my house, to host people. My house was tiny at the time, and it was pretty full. I went all out, and I made like chocolate chip cookies, and I made guacamole. Like I made good food because I don't know, food impresses me, so it might impress him. And we had a bunch of people over, like a lot of people who hadn't ever met before, and it was really good. You were able to make it, which was great. And it started, wrapping up, and people started leaving one by one. And secretly, like, I don't know, there was something going on later that night, a Valentine's swing dance, and I was going alone. But part of me was like looking for maybe an opportunity to ask him to come with me. In a way, I was the one who asked us on our first date, but we didn't really think it was a date yet. So I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, so I had it on my mind, and so it ends up being just him and I in the house, which is obviously unique because like we didn't know each other that well. But I was just like trying to just sit down and like get up the courage to ask you to come to this dance. And I didn't tell him it was a Valentine's dance until after he said yes, that he would come, because I didn't want to be like that forward. But I remember just being like, so I don't know if you have any plans today or anything, but I'm going to be going to a swing dance, and that's something that I really like to do sometimes. If you want to come, we could go. And I was just very like no pressure about it. And how did you feel?
Well, so she had mentioned it, like she sent out a group text to people kind of inviting them to this, but she did say in the group text, like, we have to wrap up sort of by a certain time. Yeah. Because I have a swing dance that night. Or this night.
Okay, so he knew it was going to happen.
And so I knew there was a swing dance, but like in my head, who goes to a swing dance by themselves?
Because he didn't know how they worked. Like, this is one of those.
That just, yeah. I'm like, if you're going to a dance, you have someone you're dancing with. I don't know. And so I'm like, oh, dang. She's probably going with somebody. Like, so maybe she does have sort of maybe not a significant other, because like she had been, not like, I mean, sort of flirtatious a little bit. So like, maybe she doesn't have a significant other, but maybe there's someone like sort of in the mix that I don't know about. And so I was like, oh, crap. And so then she kind of said like everything after the worship day event was over, people filtered out, and so it's just us two. And so I was torn by this like I probably should leave because it's like kind of awkward just like to be in, at least in my mind, like I don't want to impose, and it's like it's just me and her in her house. So like
Meanwhile, the whole time I'm just waiting for it to be
sometimes
just
like
me and him.
I know, and I was afraid that like she would feel like uncomfortable that like there's just this dude that she sort of knows like in her house, and so. But at the same time, I didn't want to like cut the night too short, like 'cause I enjoy being with her, and so I was trying to like weigh sort of like the awkward, like kind of like slowly making my way out, but like very very slowly. And then she asked, and I was like, oh, so she's not going with anybody to the dance, so that's cool. But it was kind of last minute, and so she's like, well, I got to get changed and stuff, and so I was like, well, if you're getting changed like into a dress, like I'm not just gonna wear like I was wearing like a sweatshirt and like joggers,
Yeah.
and so I was like, I'm not gonna like.
He insisted on not looking basic with
Yeah.
a girl in a dress.
Yeah, I'm not gonna dance with this lady in a nice dress. I'm just like bum city over here.
Didn't we end up just going in your car?
Yep, and so I went to your family's house, which is just like right across. Like it's really, really close.
Very close.
Where she was staying. And so I just like hung out with the family for a bit while she changed. And then I drove her, we drove together, and so went to my apartment.
And then you went in quick and changed. And then he came out and he was like matching his tie to my dress. He was wearing Converse like me. And I was super impressed because guys don't do that. Like, guys don't pay attention to those things. But he was just very observant and trying to impress me. And I was impressed. He treated it kind of like a date, even though we didn't agree it was a date.
Yeah.
Like, he opened my doors and we had some conversations in the car about...
Yep.
You know, some big questions like, so, like, you like it here? Are you going to stay living here?
Yep.
Like, things like that. Really just finally got a chance one-on-one, like a chunk of time to actually get to know each other in person.
I don't know, 45-minute drive?
Yeah, it was a long drive, so it was
an hour and a half
good.
there and back to talk and get to know each other a little better.
Yeah, and I had been swing dancing almost every month for years and years, and I still love swing dancing. I don't get it in as much, but... I was like, well, this is a good chance for him to be let into my world a little bit, something that I love, and maybe we'll see if he's willing to learn a little, because that was important to me at the time. And he was so eager to learn. He was a quick learner. He might say differently, but he did amazingly, and I was impressed. And we did slow dance once, I think, or maybe twice.
Yeah.
So we got a little close, you know, like got to know each other, got more comfortable. And I just remember having such insane butterflies after that date. Like, I run to my house and I'm just like, ah! Like, it was no joke. Like, it was a date, but we didn't know it. So
yeah, and actually, while we were at the swing dance, the organizer, she asked like, so is this what was it, your boyfriend? Or...
No, she gave me two options. She's like, is this your boyfriend or a date?
Or a date.
And I was like, a date. And then I'm like, oh.
Yeah. But I took it as like I was her date for the night.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. And that's like, what she meant.
Yeah.
And I wasn't gonna say, oh, it's my boyfriend. No.
Then part of you would have been okay with that. But.
We did take our first picture together that day in our matching outfits, and I don't remember anything else notable about the conversation on the way home or anything.
No, she got to know each other better, and then when I dropped you off, so it was Saturday night.
Yep.
And as we were kind of leaving, I was like, so it'd be like cool if I could see you again sometime.
Yeah.
But would it be better for me to talk to your parents, your dad especially, if I were to ask you like to see you again sometime? And so she was like, yes, I think that would be a very good idea. And I kind of expected that, and so I was like, okay, cool, have a good night. And then as we were leaving though, you're like, well, can I have a hug? And I was like, sure, yeah.
He was very respectful and didn't push any boundaries or anything. So
yeah, and
I think you felt a little off about us going on a not date without having talked to my parents either already.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, I had been at the, like, they knew what was happening.
They knew.
I'd been you came over to the house when I was there and stuff. So
yeah.
But no, I just have grown up, and I know I have lots of students or girls, of course, and I have sisters, and I've just heard lots of creepy things about guys on dates or not dates, and guys who are just friends,
assuming too much,
and they think that there's an opening or she's into me type stuff. And so I've always tried to stay aware of that or sensitive to that fact.
Yeah, and I, as a girl, a Christian girl, like, I didn't want to be too obvious, but I also totally believe that showing interest is good. Like, you don't need to sit there and, like, just wait, like, maybe he'll pursue me, maybe not. No, like, I was trying to make it somewhat clear that there was interest there, so then it was on him to take that torch and go with it.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being, like, so quickly.
Yes. So we had the
After
conversation. Should I talk to your parents, whatever? And she's like, yeah. And so we said goodnight. And then I don't think I texted your parents that night.
Because it was kind of late. I think
It
it
was
must
late.
have been like 10.
I'm just trying to remember. So it was Saturday night. Somehow, whether it was that night or the morning, I think it was the morning after, I texted your dad and I said, I really, really enjoy your daughter, Am. She's like awesome. And we had a great time at a swing dance. And so I would like to possibly pursue her. And so would it be possible for me to sit down and talk with you and either get your blessing to do so or not, just to kind of, be on the same page. And so regardless, I get the like, yeah, let's meet, let's get together. What works. And so I was like, I'm open Sunday afternoon. Like, so I think it was Sunday morning. So I'm like, I'm open this afternoon after church, if possible. Otherwise, like some evening during the week. And I was really, really hoping for an evening during the week.
Yeah, he wanted a little time.
But I wanted to be honest. Like, I do have today open, and like after I sent it, I was like, maybe I should have just said sometime during this week and try to figure that out. And so I'm sitting in church, and her dad is like very like proactive about stuff.
Very much so.
And so he's like, yeah, how about you swing by after you're done? Just let me know when you're gonna be here, and because the girls will be gone. He's like, yeah, the girls will be gone, so just be me.
I was taking my mom on a mom date. I think it was it just a girl's day? I don't even think it was for her birthday. Yeah. So we were gone most of the day.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting in church, and I'm like, oh dang it, because like me personally, I like to kind of get my head around an issue and like kind of know. Not exactly like script it out, but kind of know what I'm going to say or kind of go through scenarios in my head. If other people do that, where you kind of plan out conversations a little bit.
You take time for things to
I like to reflect and simmer.
So it is surprising, like you offered that, and that's what happened.
Shoot. So I'm sitting in church, like praying very hard. And then church goes long. Like we were just in like a state of like worship, and they're just playing song after song, which is awesome, except for in my head. And I know her dad's like pretty intense. Because I had spent enough time with him that like it wasn't going to be just like, oh yeah, you're a really good guy, yeah, do whatever you want with my daughter type stuff. Like he was going to like ask tough questions, and he was going to like not just like, I don't know, beat around the bush. Like it was going to be an intense conversation. And so I was like gearing myself up and praying, and then we're going long, and I'm just kind of like wanting to be over. So I'm like, Lord, just like I'm just going to get up in the middle of church and leave. But I'm like, no, I'm going to sit and like try and like take part in worship and things like that. But my mind is just racing and and so met with her dad and had, I don't know, an hour and a half conversation about pretty much everything. Pasts, issues I've dealt with, weaknesses I've seen myself, differences that we might have even in just our short time together that I'd noticed, and views on certain religious or doctrine type things about the Bible and your relationship with God and stuff, which for him were important just to know where I stood on, because you guys see yourself, like your family sees themselves a little bit as, I don't know, not like mainstream Christian, like American Christian, American church
beliefs. And I will say, like, he never interrogated anyone else the way he interrogated you.
Yeah.
Like, he has never just sat down with a boy and been like, yeah, so what are your beliefs about this doctrine?
Yeah.
No, like.
And it wasn't, I didn't feel interrogated. I mean, I knew it was like, I mean, I was nervous, obviously, as I think guys should be when you talk to dad. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're not nervous, then, I don't know, then dad needs to bring out the shotgun or whatever. Like, there should be some nervousness. There should be some sort of fear of God situation. I don't know. But I think that's the role dads play. So that's a talk in the comments or whatever about that. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, and so, but it was a good conversation. And he was very gracious, and I spilled pretty much everything, or close to at least. And so,
my dad knew more about him than I knew about him.
Probably
and
for
I
a while,
remember
too.
after, like, I was curious because I was like asking him, like, okay, so you talked? And he's like, yeah. I don't know how much you really want to hear from me. I feel like you should hear that from him. My dad knew all this on you. And I did end up learning it really fast, but it was still kind of interesting.
Yeah.
He went deep, for sure.
So I remember her dad, like, and I was kind of glad for this, but like explicitly stated, like, you have my blessing, and Am's old enough to make her own decisions, so we're not going to say no, but you seem, we wish you the best of luck, basically. And so then we had kind of sat around a bit. You came home with your mom, and so then we were kind of like sitting at the kitchen table.
Yeah, so he was still there like hours later. I feel like it had been at least several hours.
Yeah.
And so we got home from the date, and I did not expect that you were going to be there still. I think I knew you were talking to him.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect him to be there. But he was there. And so I'm like, okay. And I went and like kind of sat by him at the table.
We're kind of sitting next to each other. And
just kind of stiffly like, and then looked over our schedules and kind of chatted a little. Like, we got along well, but it was still like in that weird transition of,
I think your dad
what
and
are
mom
we?
made a comment too. Like, oh, they're still so awkward. Like, should we hold hands? Should we not hold hands or whatever? And so in my mind, like, we're like a thing now.
That's what he thought.
I had never really actually, I just thought about it, like, asked her out.
No, he never asked me out.
But like we did sit and like, so when are you next available? And I have a game this day this week and a basketball game this day and this week. And so for sure we were going to meet the following Saturday because we both had relatively busy.
This is what we planned. I was going to one of your basketball games on Wednesday night where I got to dress up cute, look cute in the stands and watch you coach so I could kind of see you in your element. And then Saturday was going to be our first like actual real date, and it was going to be you cooking for me, us going for a walk, maybe something like that.
Yes.
And that was almost a week after that. And so the first week we were together, but he didn't tell me we were together
until I snapped you.
Until I think it was Tuesday that week that I found out we were together because you were sharing my music with your students. I think in the gym or something. And they were, I don't know, they're like, who is this? This is good or whatever. And you were saying, that's my girlfriend. And you sent that to me. And I was like, wait, am I your girlfriend then? And he's like, well, yeah, I just like had a 3-hour conversation with your dad. But I just it didn't, he didn't actually ask me. So I didn't know for sure. And so I was like, okay, boyfriend. Okay, I can do that. I wasn't mad. I'm not one of those girls who needs that necessarily. But it just took a few days to realize.
Guys, talk to dad, I would say, and then actually talk to the girl though too.
Ask her, yes. Because it was pretty clear I wanted to, but I didn't say that, And so you were I really loved how you just like shared my music in the school a lot, and I started getting some more streams and stuff. But the students loved to hear about me, and you would talk to them about me, and that just really honored me. I really loved that. But yeah, so I saw you at the game. I dressed super cute, got super fancy, and I barely talked to you at all because obviously that's most of the evening. And then we were texting obviously throughout, and that was the only week that we didn't see each other every day. Like, we really only saw each other 2 or 3 times that week. And then from then on, it was every day. We like had to see each other, even if it was only for 10 minutes. But Saturday was our first real date, and I'd say that we ended up having basically all the conversation that you and my dad had in that date. So a lot of big stuff. We spilled a lot of our guts on some of our past and our mistakes and different things like that. And so everything was out on the table right away, which was really refreshing for me actually, because I tend to be the one in the past who would initiate those important conversations, but I just remember you being very forward and texting me like something kind of long saying, on Saturday I would really like to kind of talk and delve deeper into some of these things. So just kind of give me a heads up so I can think about it, maybe like you would want. Yeah. And it was just really refreshing, and I was very blessed by that.
Yeah. So the first day, I cooked for you. We went for a walk, and we sat in a national park. It was beautiful out.
At a specific bench.
Yep. Very important bench, which will come up later.
Oh, that sounds kind of weird.
Not like that. Anyways, and just talked for a couple hours. Yeah. And like you kind of said about a lot of the things that I talked with your dad, we both just kind of talked about sort of baggage and views and hopes and dreams on stuff. So everything from
a lot of hopes
family
and dreams too.
Goals.
That's the day I learned he wanted 11 plus children. And I was very clear from the start. I was like, I don't see that for myself.
But you still wanted a lot.
But I do see a big family, and I am open to God's plan for my life. So, we just got to really some big questions that some couples don't talk about for years. We were right on the table with, and I feel like that our relationship just really accelerated quickly in the area of depth because we both knew what we wanted. We were both adults, ready to move forward in life, and didn't want to waste time. So,
and I've heard different takes on it. Some people say like talking about decisions or topics like that really early on can give you kind of a false sense of intimacy or closeness, which I can kind of see. At the same time, my vision, at least, and I think yours too, of dating wasn't just like we're just gonna hang out and have fun and like kind of just go with the flow of emotions and things, but it was quite purposeful. That I was dating and she was dating me to potentially, or hopefully, end goal was to get married and to spend the rest of our lives together, and to honor each other through that. And so that first day, like a lot of people probably don't have those conversations.
I think we talked our boundaries on the first date too.
We did too. That's correct.
Because that was something that was in the lingo the first week we didn't know yet. So we kind of addressed where we were at with physical boundaries, what our goals were there. And I mean, you have to adapt to the partner that needs more protection in that area, I guess.
But we were pretty similar.
We were pretty similar. And it was really a blessing to save some of those things till later on. We saved our first kiss for engagement, and we saved everything else for the wedding day and after. And I wouldn't change a single thing about that.
I agree.
It really helped us in our situation learn so much so fast because we weren't distracted by anything. And I don't know, it was just really perfect for our situation. And then once we were engaged, it was nice to just slowly kind of ease into that rather than just boom, like nothing and everything, Yes. So it was good in that way. Yep.
And so we started dating officially, or as I call it officially, February 21st, but she didn't know. Like she took her a few days to catch up.
So we met on January 31st. We started dating officially. We agree on the date February 21st now, which is the day he talked to my dad. Yeah. And so then from that point, I think it was only 2 weeks into dating that you were already heading to... Oh, wait, let me say this first. Within the first week, he had asked my ring size. And his theory was, I better ask soon.
So she doesn't see it coming.
So that she doesn't see it coming. Well, he ordered the ring shortly after, so I really don't know.
Well, yeah, because I was like, if I'm... And I don't know, I'm not like... I'm sort of strategic on stuff and like practical. And I was like, if we're like 6 months into dating and all of a sudden I know I'm like, hey, what's your ring size? Like
that's gonna be obvious.
Or I could try and do the thing where I try and go behind her back and talk to mom and sisters, and some people do that too. But I was like, I don't know, that seems kind of weird too. Like especially if they don't know, because then they're asking you your ring size. So anyways, I just figured I'll ask right away, and then if I need it, I need it. If I don't,
we got it in. I think it was Monday or Tuesday night of our second week dating, and that's what you got it. And so then 2 weeks in, you were already planning to go visit your family across the state. And you were, obviously not expecting that I'd be comfortable to do that yet. But you put it out there. You're like, well, this weekend I'm going to be gone. I'm going to visit my parents and family. And I'd love it if you want to come, but no pressure. And I was so down. And he would do this thing where before he was going to say something that he thought was a little too soon, maybe, he'd be like, what were the words he used?
I don't mean to be too forward.
Yeah. Or something like that. I don't want to be too forward or anything. And then I was like, oh, I love what you say whenever you say that. Like because I was on board, Yeah. And so I was ready. I was not too intimidated to go and meet your family. I thought that was cool that there was an opportunity so soon. He already knew my family pretty well, so I wanted to know his. And we ended up going, and then I had my own bed, my own room to myself, and then everyone else shared the house. It was like, it was kind of nice.
Well, my family, like, we're all sort of, it's going to sound weird, but we're like kind of communal sleepers where we just kind of like sleep wherever. Yeah. Like, so there's living room. We spent
one night there, and I got the chance to spend time with most of your family members. I didn't meet all of your siblings that day, but I met most of the family. And... yeah, it was good to meet them at that point. I didn't learn much about them yet, but it was it was needed.
And it was a lot of driving because it's like a 3.5-4 hour drive back to my parents, and then 3.5, 4
Yeah.
hours back.
And then on the way back, like, I think we ended up making a stop at the park that we like to go to.
We did. It was late at night,
It was
and instead
dark.
of going straight to my
Sorry.
apartment where her car was parked, I just went to the same park that we had sat in,
just spontaneously.
talked in, and so yeah, and it was.
And we walked out there under the stars, like kind of hand in hand, and I don't know. That was the night I realized. I know it was only 2 weeks in, but that was like the night internally I realized I love this guy. Like, the love grew really fast for me, but I didn't tell him for another 2 weeks. So yeah, it wasn't for a month that we said that, but I just remember we had a really special moment just under the stars on a bridge, and it was very romantic and very sweet.
Yep.
And I don't know.
And I think I want to say it was either this road trip or another one, where we were driving, and you had made a joke or a comment about something. And I was laughing, and almost, and like mid-laugh, I like started to say like, I love you, but I kind of like was able to cut it short. Because again, I was like very aware of not being disingenuous, not being, I don't know. I wanted to be sensitive to not like, as the Bible says, don't spark love before it's due or whatever. And so I was very careful not to like say that too soon, if that makes sense. Because I wanted to be honest and respectful. And so there was a moment where I almost told her that I loved her pretty early on, but I was able to kind of like, I really like you.
We both felt the start of love before we said it. And we both had some restraint to hold off on that and not rush it, just to make sure that it was the right timing and that it was genuine. And that, I mean, I think we only dated for 6.5 weeks. We only dated for 6.5 weeks. So think about this. This is a month in that we finally said I love you, and we got engaged 2.5 weeks after that.
Yep. And I had the ring by then. Yeah, and so I was probably about that time, about a month in, I started talking a lot more to people in my life. So a few mentor teachers, parents, my brother-in-law, who I really respect too, and was just kind of explaining the relationship and how things were going, and like, and I really, really like this girl, obviously, and all the hormones are flowing and the infatuation's there, but I wanted to also be wise. And part of me was like, again, on board of like a month in, like, I could marry this girl. And so I remember talking to a lot of people, and for the most part, there was only one who cautioned me a little bit, and that was my dad. Everyone else was very, very kind of supportive of it.
Surprisingly, because most people are not gonna like, oh, you've known her for 6 weeks, okay, get married.
Yeah, a lot of them were just like, hey, you don't have to do it in a certain time frame. The Lord will let you know, and God will guide you through that, and just kind of show you what His time frame is for you. And so I got that like 4 times, and then once my dad was like, I would wait at least 4 months or whatever it was, something like that. And so he was the only one that did that, and I did take that into account. And so I did have a time frame where I think I was going to propose in, was it beginning of May or end of May? It was in May. I was going to propose.
We got engaged on April 7th. So it did happen before that timeline.
Yes, and that was like my original plan, and I just kept kind of rolling over those dates. And I want to say it was early May. Because I was kind of like counting out like weeks and kind of like sort of trying to, not like appease my dad, but kind of follow his advice. And I was like, I don't know, that could be good though. Like,
it's wise. Yeah. I mean, looking at our story, I wouldn't tell just anyone. Yeah, do that. That sounds wise. No.
But I remember just spending time in prayer and really reflecting on it, and again, kind of bringing up to some other people, and it continued to be like, if you believe she's the one, what are you waiting for? Like, it's not going to be easier for you in that time to like abstain from like physical contact or things like that. Like, it's going to get tougher and tougher. And if you think you know enough about her, and if you go through some counseling, premarital counseling and things like that, and you believe that this is who God has for you, then what are you waiting for? You know, like if God wants you to, let's say, do something good, like help somebody, are you going to like really, really just wait for some clear sign from God for you to help them? Like, no, if it's a good thing, do it. And there was a rap song that kept coming up called called Game Time, I think? But anyways, and there's a line in it like,
Oh yeah.
if she's fly loves God, then boy, like that's a layup. You know, it's like it's an easy shot. Take the shot.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that date of early May kept creeping closer and closer and closer. And so then I had it figured out how I was going to propose and when I was going to propose and where I was going to propose.
Which we might have to make a different video because this one's
it's a
long.
long
But I just remember you ended up going to my dad to ask for my hand then.
Mm-hmm.
But of course that meeting was like
Way
so much shorter and easier because he had already asked everything that you probably would have ever asked someone before they marry your daughter. So I thought that was so funny, like the dating versus the marriage talk was like See, that's how we go into, like, we were going into dating that seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so at that point it was moving forward well, and we both had such strong peace about it and really meshed together in a way that neither of us had ever experienced before.
Correct.
It was just so undeniable, and God kept giving us peace, and we kept like bringing it to him separately with other people, with mentors, and there was just peace.
Yep. Yeah.
And so it was just, I don't know, I was ready to say yes, even though obviously looking back, I barely knew you compared to now.
Mm-hmm.
Barely. Like, I knew him enough in my mind to say yes. And that's because of the grace and the peace that I had in the situation, the peace from God. If I didn't have that, I don't think I should have ever made a decision like that. But he was guiding, and that was the perfect timing. And I would not have changed a single thing about that season. It was exactly what it needed to be. Yeah. And even though we're not going to go into detail about engagement just yet, because this is a long video, he proposed at that bench that we had our first date in that park. Mm-hmm. And it was just a really special, like, full circle moment for me. And I was surprised. I actually did not expect it that day at all. Yeah. So.
But yeah, you said we might have to talk more about that. But.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
So
dating for 6.5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And I would say, I wouldn't necessarily encourage everyone in that. Like, I think everyone's situation is different. Yeah. Like some people say, wait a whole year and go through the seasons and see the changes that happen to people. And I think there's wisdom in that. And for some people, that could absolutely be the thing to do. But for me, I knew, and we had kind of talked previously too, even in that conversation early on, about we don't really want like a super long dating season, and especially not a really long engagement season.
I think I had said I don't see a reason to date for more than a year, and I don't see a reason to be engaged for more than 6 months. So my timeline maximum was like 1.5 years, really. And you were kind of down with that, you know? Yeah. Like, that makes sense, yeah. And we ended up doing
6 weeks, 6.5.
A few months total, like 4 months or something.
Yeah, from from dating to married.
Yeah. So that's our how we met, how we fell in love story, and how we courted and dated. Mm-hmm. I'm sure I actually kept really good notes about every single date we did and stuff, but that's so much. Yeah. I mean, you can't imagine getting to the point where you don't know someone to getting to the point where you will marry them. Yeah. In 6.5 weeks, like, that's a lot of information.
Yeah. And I will say, like you said, though, we saw each other every day.
Every day.
And it was either, having dinner at my house and then going out on a walk or watching a movie, or
it was a mix of
we went through books together,
or group time, or fellowship, church time. It was very balanced and it was very blessed, the whole thing.
But I really and this got brought up while we were seeing each other. Of like, man, I feel like you guys are getting to know each other very quickly, because it wasn't like how a lot of people date. I think where it's like, I see them one night a week for dinner or whatever, and then we spend a day on the weekend together or something. Yeah. Like, we saw each other hours and hours and hours and hours. Yeah. Like, basically.
And every day we were talking about something really big.
And
there was no break almost.
And I would say, like, it wasn't like we were married, obviously, because we weren't living together or anything like that. But it in my mind, went from single to committed relationship. Yeah. Like, there was a drastic difference. It wasn't like I'm still kind of single or like still like have a lot of my own downtime. It was either I was at work or I was with Am.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people like to say, like, you should get in a big fight at least once before you marry someone. Well, we've been married for months and months and have never been in a big fight yet. No. and life is amazing, and I would not change a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is that good advice in general? It's good to see how people handle conflict, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not absolutely necessary.
And yeah, we've had disagreements, but nothing beyond a few tense minutes, and then maybe like 5 minutes of like
we've never intentionally hurt each other.
No.
Even when there's emotions. So, yeah. But that is our story. If you have questions, feel free to ask them, and we might answer them.
Yeah.
But mostly this is for our own records because we want to always remember. And I know people easily forget the details of their love stories. So it was such a magical time I wanted to capture and never forget.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you for filming with me.
Kissed on camera. Demonetized.